So in this segment, we're going to call this the compass segment. Why? Because it's going to give us a direction of how the market is not only been behaving, or the overview of the market on a year-to-year, but how the market is trending on a month-to-month. Because when we study that, we see two different stories. On a year-to-year, we see a lot of negative numbers when it comes to number of sales, active listings, and the new listings that have come into the market. So when we look at a year-to-year, we see that there was a change of about 16.8% in a negative on the number of sales. However, when we look at the numbers for February on a month-to-month, the number of sales for the month of February was 9,097. On the month-to-month, that's a change of 61.81% from the month of February. Now, when you look at active listings, that's also increased, and now we're looking at an increase of about 68.72% from the month of January. Now, what's interesting here is the number of new listings that have come into the market. That number for the month of February was 14,147, and that's an increase of about 77%. So why is this important? Well, this is important because even though we're getting a lot more inventory, we're getting a lot more sales, the market is still struggling to supply enough inventory for the market that is out there of buyers looking to get into home ownership. So when we look at the year-to-year on the average price, now this number is staggering. Because when we look at a year ago, the average price was about just over $1 million, which when we look at a year-to-year, based on this month's average price, we're up about 27.7%. What's interesting about that is from a month-to-month, from January to February, we're up about 7.28%, but from December of 2021, we're up about 15.38%. These numbers are crucial because what it's telling us is that the trend that the market is going. So fewer, obviously we're in the winter months, fewer inventory because that's traditional. Combine that with a pool of buyers trying to get in, so then that's obviously going to push the average price up. And this is why we're in the, if you want to call it, if you want to call it an inventory crisis, you can, because that's what we've been experiencing, which again, we all know simple marketing 101, supply and demand, less inventory, huge demand tends to push the average price up. So we'll call this section trend. What's trending? What's interesting about what we saw in the month of February is that the detached segment in the 416 saw just over a 9% month-to-month average price increase. What we saw in the 905 is that semis and townhouses saw one of its biggest numbers. But the one section that nobody's really talking about, but all of us realtors are seeing it, maybe not you, the consumer, is that the condo market has actually increased and is actually getting a lot of volume and a lot of sales in this last month. Why? Simply, I'm sorry, you buyers, you got pushed out of the market. You know, it went up so much high, so the market went up so high that now you just can't afford it. And I don't blame you. You still want to have that pride of ownership. So instead of just sitting there and not owning anything and being a person that's on the outside watching in, hey, get in the market. So where are you going? You're going to a condo. And that's okay. That's the cycle of home ownership. Start in a condo, move up to your semi, and then move on to your detaches. So in this section, I want to talk about number of sales. Now what we've seen in the 905 and the 416 area, detaches, semis, townhomes, have seen the greatest number of a month-to-month increases. We're looking at anywhere detaches in the 416 month-to-month change of about 88%. In the 905, about 77%. Why is this important? Well, because it'll be interesting to see as the market unfolds and we start going on month-to-month and we start finally entering our spring market, we're going to kind of see a shift in these numbers, and I think these month-to-month numbers are going to come down drastically. And like I mentioned earlier, what I think is going to be picking up and what I feel very strongly about is that the condo apartment numbers are going to be increasing both in the 416 and the 905. Why? Because of market turbulence. Market turbulence, what does that even mean? Well, sometimes the market turbulence is things that we cannot control. One of those things are what we just experienced on March the 2nd was that the government of Canada increased its overnight rate by 25 basis points. On a personal note, I would have gone a little higher, but I'm not the Bank of Canada. But what this tells us is that the government feels that this was necessary. They started off small, and I'm sure they're going to be doing a lot of these continuous increases over the year. So what this is going to happen is, again, it's going to be impacting the consumer, the buyer, basically their bottom line. So what we're going to see is perhaps the people that were able to buy the $1.2 million property are now going to be pushed down to be buying maybe a $1 million property or maybe a $900,000 property. It's not the end of all things, but it is going to require an adjustment on the buyer. One thing that we're still noticing, and it's still been impacting the market a lot, is the inventory. Still a lot of little inventory in the market, is fewer listings today that we've seen. But again, we talk about this because, again, there's a big pool of buyers out there. What we're forgetting is that this is a winter real estate market. We haven't even started our spring market. And that's usually for real estate, that's our most active market. And now you'll see a lot more listings coming up after March break and around Easter time is when I suspect more people will be geared to getting their house on the market. How turbulent is this going to be? Well, only time will tell. And this is going to be a good indicator in the next couple of months, see how people will react to this change. Typically, a minor change, you see the consumer react, takes about a 30-day adjustment. Anything that's impactful, I don't know if you guys recall, maybe the stress test. That was an impactful shock to the market. That took about 6 months for the consumer to adjust. With these interest rates, I think it will be a lot shorter of an impact, and I think people will quickly adjust. All they'll have to do is just shift from one segment, one price point, just onto the next one. So as we're navigating the market, what we see for you sellers out there in the calm shores is that the market had seen a bit of a change since mid-February. What we've seen is that you're starting to get fewer showings, fewer offers on offer night, which then results into less money in your pocket. This is going to obviously happen because the consumer has adjusted in the way they're buying. We've seen such an increase of the market pricing since December that there's a high expectation for you to get maximum dollars, and so you should. But now you need to adjust that expectation. Otherwise, what you'll end up doing is you'll be staying on the market longer, helping your neighbor sell, while you're just going to be hanging around and potentially leave money on the table. And that's the last thing we want you to do. And how does this look for you buyers? Well, I know you're tired. I know you're all having buyer fatigue. I don't blame you. I'm fatigued because we're getting out there, we're doing showings for you, and guess what? Because of this limited inventory, we've been missing out. And it sucks. I feel you. But you know what? Hang in there. Adjust with how the market is behaving. Be patient. Make sure that you're working with a knowledgeable realtor who's not only just gonna tell you something, but advise you. And what we're trying to see is that obviously the more inventory will come into the market, should level the pricing than what we've been experiencing. Since the middle of February, we have seen anywhere between a 2 to 4% price adjustment downwards. So hang in there. You're going to be able to you might have to shift your mindset. You might have to shift again, and maybe instead of getting that $1.5 million detached, you might have to maybe go down to a 1.3 townhouse. And that's okay. But we need you to understand that these market conditions are not going to last forever, and that you have to make sure that you navigate and go along with it. What I hear a lot of buzz with a lot of the buyers out there is that they'll look at an area and they'll see that it's listing at a certain price, and they're only looking at a certain price because they've come conditioned that thinking that, okay, if I'm looking in Oakville, then I gotta look at, if I'm gonna spend $2 million, my search has to stop at 1.5 million because I know it's gonna go 500 over asking. Be careful with that. Because now you're in a transition period, some of these houses that didn't sell, or the seller may have had high expectations, is now getting listed in between that number. And it's less than what you're willing to pay for it, which means now you're gonna miss out on that listing. So be careful that the habits that have been created because of this limited inventory that you get out of that quick, because you could potentially miss out on the right property for yourself. So now that we have all this information, how are we going to chart our next course of action? Well, if I'm a seller, I'm making sure I'm asking questions. Make sure that your realtors are informed on how the market is shifting, to make sure that you're not leaving any money on the table. What does that mean? Make sure that your realtor is taking professional photos, using social media to advertise your property, and making sure that the price point of how your property is being offered on the market is going to attract the most buyers so that you get top dollar. If I were a buyer, what I would do is sit down with my realtor, really look at where my affordability is and how has it changed since the 25 basis point increase in the market. Perhaps I may need to adjust a little bit, and that's okay. You still want to get into homeownership. This is going to sound a little bit cliche, but we all know that they say don't wait to buy real estate, buy real estate and wait, and that's a good thing. It's better to be in the game, or basically be the person with something tangible that they have, than rather be watching everybody do it and you're sitting on the sidelines and thinking, oh, I'm just going to wait and time the market. You can't time it. Get in now. Make sure that you hire the right realtor. And how do you know? Ask them questions and they'll have the right answers for you. Hey guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. We're going to be providing you with a lot more valuable content. So make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you get this information right away.